The law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh. So, when the law came, I died. Romans chapter 7. One of my favorite texts that I will find anywhere in the Bible is Romans chapter 7. But in it we have this, and I was once alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin became alive and I died. And this is what happened to Adam. See, Adam was created, and all things that God created were good. He was even created in God's image. But he wasn't like God, knowing good and evil. For God had even said after Adam had eaten the fruit, that he is now, what are we going to do with him? He is now like us, knowing good and evil, but he is not spiritual. He's of the flesh, sold under sin. Right? The law is spiritual, but I am of the flesh. This is what basically was said. You know, he said that therefore did that which was good cause death for me, may it never be. Rather it was sin, in order that it might be shown to be sin, affecting my death through that which is good, that through the commandment sin might become utterly sinful. Adam was not perfect. He was a man, and he was fine. He was naked in the garden, running around with his wife, having no shame or guilt of sin. However, he was still not God. And not only that, God had tested what he had made. And he made him out of the dust of the ground. And he made him flesh. For we know that the law is spiritual, Paul says, but I am of the flesh, sold into bondage to sin. This is what happened. Adam was of the flesh, and he was not of the spirit, and therefore he sinned. And what was his sin? Well, if you look at the discourse in the garden, it was because he listened to his wife rather than God. It's all there in black and white. First, the serpent had tricked Eve. Basically, the woman came out of the man. But think about it. How did something that is supposedly made in the image of God and perfect fall for Satan's tricks? Let's take a look at Jesus. Jesus had been tempted. Remember, he had been fasting for 40 days. Adam and Eve were in the garden eating all the fruit they wanted. But Jesus was fasting for 40 days, and Satan tempted Jesus and said, "Command these stones that they be bread." And Jesus answered correctly when he was tested. He was tested just like Adam and Eve were tested. But Jesus said, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Father." Now if Adam were perfect, then he would have answered, and he would have not eaten of this fruit. And if we look at Romans chapter 9, where it basically says the same thing, that on the contrary, who are you, O man, who answers back to God? The thing molded will not say to its molder, just as Adam was molded out of clay, why did you make me like this, will it? Or does the potter not have right over the clay to make from some lump one vessel for honor and the other vessel for common use, or actually dishonor? And those are the literal words. What if God, although willing to demonstrate his wrath and make known his power, endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared beforehand, be prepared for destruction? And he did so in order that he might make known the riches of his glory upon vessels of mercy. We're talking about pots here, which he prepared beforehand for glory. And if you say it's about nations, you're going to have to read the very next verse. It said, even us, not the nations, even us whom he called, not from among the Jews only, but also from the Gentiles. So when we look at this, we see that Adam was part of this plan. For we were chosen in him according to God's pleasure in Ephesians chapter 1. And we just turn right over to Ephesians chapter 1. You know, He predestined us to the adoption of sons through Jesus Christ himself according to the kind intention of his will, just as he chose us in him before the foundation of the world. Remember that there's no possible way we could be chosen in him before the foundation of the world if God had not planned it to be so. Because Adam and Eve weren't even formed yet, but we were already in him through the skins that he was covered by. Okay? Oh, he looked down the corridors of time. And I'm going to look at you and I'm going to go, who created time? And if he created time, and he created, and he uphold, and everything is upheld by his hand, he did not look down the corridors of time. It was the plan, according to his plan and his purpose, that he purposed before the beginning of time. Okay? And I can show you this, and I've shown you this on many videos before, that he had planned for all this to happen. And according to the plan and purpose of his will, to put everything in subjection under Christ, that all men would not be able to, no person, that no one would be righteous enough to stand before God in righteousness. No one, not one, except the Lord Jesus Christ. Not even Elijah, not even Moses. These people in the Transfiguration were below Christ because they were still sinful men. Although great men in the Lord, not perfect. Sinful. And so that this way they would everybody would have to bow their knee and not exalt themselves, making themselves above God, just as they did at the Tower of Babel. This was God's plan and purpose, so that this way he would bring us into humble subjection under Christ, realizing that he had created a whole bunch of angels, and on purpose, with a will in them, but he created all this whole thing that the angels, including Satan, would exalt himself in the law against him. So the law is spiritual and good, but the created beings had rebelled in heaven because of it. And thus all to show the mystery of Christ. Thank you.